and possibly give you some information that I hope is new to you. Sorry, hopefully I'll also give you some information that you all don't know, which will aid you when you go look at these species. Right. The next slide. Okay, so bird watching has been practiced for a lot of centuries now. For us especially, it's a unique opportunity to sort of look at birds, one in their natural habitat, and also now with their adaptive habitats in the urban areas. The behavior of a lot of birds has changed a little bit. So it's a very nice feeling when you look, when you can get a picture of both of these simultaneously. So you go to the wild, you can see exactly how this bird behaves in the bushes, and when you come back to the city in your own backyard, maybe the bird behaves slightly differently. Now, bird watching itself, I think is a hobby that gives me a lot of pleasure. With the different birds that you see, the different colors, it's so beautiful, the bird sounds. But I think there is so much more to the birds than just, the sights and sounds, just in terms of the colors. So when you look at their behavior, each bird is very, very unique in its behavior, and you would be surprised that some of the common birds that we've been seeing day in and day out, which I'm going to be talking about very soon, their behavior is very strange. Strange is possibly a wrong word to use, but it is very intriguing to know how some of these birds behave. Go ahead. Yeah, I know, don't judge me because I put a slide on the crow. Can any of you identify what these three different crows are, or what the difference is? Common crow, okay, so the one on top is the house crow, which we see every day. This one here is called the large-billed crow. The two most abundantly found bird species. Yeah, the house crow.
It should be fine.
I think this is good now. I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, so these two, the ones on the right are the most commonly and abundantly found species, the common crow and the large-billed crow. And the one on the left is the raven. So a lot of people think that anything black is a raven. It's not. The raven is actually not even found in these areas. You find the raven in the mountainous regions in somewhere northeast of India, Pakistan, etc. How to identify or differentiate between a raven and a large-billed crow is this hump here is much larger for a large-billed crow, and the raven obviously is a much bigger bird. The raven, when it flies, it soars quite a bit. It doesn't flap as much as the large-billed crows. It also does some somersaults. So that's an absolute spotter for a raven. The moment you see a crow doing a somersault, you know it's a raven. So a little bit more about these crows is that they help a lot today in controlling diseases and keeping our cities clean. Crows cannot live without human beings. They typically are not recorded where there are no humans around. A lot of countries have introduced crows into their countries on purpose to try and reduce the spread of diseases, or at least they thought that they would try and keep the place cleaner because they help in cleaning rubbish. But crows, unfortunately, are considered one of the most disruptive invasive species in the world today. Invasive species, if I'm sure you know, is species introduced into an area by humans where they are not really found inherently. So by introducing crows, I think Zanzibar did it in 1800, late 1800, 1890 they introduced crows, and it cost them very dearly. the crows started eating the eggs of their native birds, destroying crops, maize, things like that. And because of that, the entire ecosystem went into an imbalance. So it's like it starts eating the insects, which aid in pollination. It starts eating birds, which again, it's a cycle. So it went so bad that the water table got affected. So that's the kind of damage that an invasive species can cause. I think on an average in the world today, invasive species cost us about 1.5 trillion US dollars annually. So that's a scale. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. The fowl, or most of you would call it the chicken, is the most abundant bird in the world today. What we don't know is that it was first domesticated in India, and it was first domesticated for using in fighting. Then it spread to Southeast Asia and then to the rest of the world. Interesting things about the chicken is that they're one of the fewer bird species that can start moving as soon as they hatch. A lot of other bird species need a lot of care by the parents. The chicken start moving pretty much. Chicken, ducks, and some other species can start moving very fast. More about the chicken. They dream just like us. They have colored vision. A lot of people have asked me questions about the eggs, of whether all the eggs hatch, and the differences between the brown and white. So all eggs do not hatch. The hen will lay the egg, but you need a rooster to inseminate the egg, and only those would hatch. And there potentially is no difference between the white egg and the brown egg in terms of nutrition. Everything is the same. It's the color of the hen that decides the color of the egg. Go ahead. This particular species is an Indian species. So this thing is called the Kadaknath. This is found only in Madhya Pradesh, and you wouldn't believe it. The beauty about the species is that the flesh is black in color. So when you cut the chicken or when you cook the chicken, it's all black. It's called Kali Masi, which means black flesh locally. But this is a breed of chicken that not too many people are aware of. And it's supposedly also an aphrodisiac, so a lot of people go ahead and buy this chicken to eat and consume. Go ahead. So now to a little more birds that we can commonly see. This we just heard one right outside. This is the Asian quail. The one on your left is the male. The one on the right is the female. What people commonly think or know, as we've studied in school, is that these quails go to the crow's nest and lay its eggs, and the crow will take care of the hatchlings. But the quails actually, they're called brood parasites because they go lay eggs in other species' nests. They target much larger variety of birds than just the crows. It was the crows which is still the number one. Miners are catching up. They're targeting miners quite a bit. They also target smaller birds, orioles, sometimes even babblers, warblers. As much as the quail gives a very sweet sound, it's a very cruel bird right from birth. When the chick is born, it almost instinctively pushes the host parent's eggs out of the nest. So it almost takes a monopoly into the nest, and sometimes the parents of the host bird are driven to the brink of exhaustion by feeding this much larger bird, and it's very demanding. Sometimes you can see the female going to the host nest to feed the chicks. Sometimes the bird is so big that it will sit outside the nest, it wouldn't fit in the nest anymore, but the host parents would still come and keep feeding it. These birds are also fairly common. You can see them in open fields, anywhere a little outside of the city. You can see them, very brave birds, drongos. You can easily identify them by their forked tails. The two most commonly found species here are the black and the ashy drongos. They are distinguishable, but To go a little more into detail, the black drongo prefers to feed on insects on the ground. The ashy drongo prefers the flying insects, so that's a small difference. When you see a drongo flying around catching it, most probably is an ashy drongo. Because they're very brave, they fight off much bigger predators. They're known to fight off pariah kites, and because of this reason, a lot of other birds nest near the drongos. You can see a lot of orioles, bulbuls nesting near the drongos for safety reasons. Another very less known fact about them is that they are very good mimics. Now, it's called kleptoparasitical. These birds steal prey from other birds by mimicking sounds of predators or mimicking sounds of other birds that they call at the time of danger, or basically alarm calls. And the drongos are a little smart. So now, when there are some birds, they try giving out the alarm calls of different bird species. So once the other birds know that it's the drongo, they will change the call to a different species call. And sometimes they call like the predator. They've known to fool mammals. They've sometimes fooled meerkats by making sound of the meerkat, the alarm call, and they steal food from other birds and even small mammals. This is the racket-tailed drongo. You can see this not so much here, but little in the mountainous regions. In Nilgiris, you have a lot of these. A lot of times you see one racket missing, but pretty much the same family. Again, very brave and aggressive birds. Next, please. Okay, the babblers, commonly found here. You can see a lot of them in IIT. They're called seven sisters. They travel or always in groups of about 6 to 10 birds. Very fascinating birds. So the fascinating thing about them is that they're small, have roundish wings, and are very bad flyers. And to make up for what they lose in flight, they make up with numbers. So they have sentries every time they go feeding. There are 1 or 2 birds always on the watch for predators. And if there is a potential predator, they all gang up together. It's completely like a unit. The babblers, even the nesting is they're called corporate nesters, where the nesting duty is shared by all the members. So at any point there are 1 or 2 sentry looking after the nest while the others go foraging.
So that the kid is having a correct attention and the issues or the queries are addressed, so that they can go build their own, make them identify their goals, or rather we can identify their interest and see if we can develop it as a goal. For example, anywhere you go, you must be knowing, like any kid, they'll say like, I want to become an engineer, I want to become a doctor. But when you dig deep, then you'll find that there is something which maybe it can be a talent, or it may be that will be the interest of the kid, which we identify and we'll bring up those qualities so that the kid achieves the goal. And yes, everything is fine as far as like education, career building, or support, tuitions, fun, everything. But what is like, you must be knowing, like even in a family, father buys the crackers and comes on a Diwali, and till that time you see someone, the neighbor skid bursting the crackers, and your kid will be feeling lonely, right? Something vacant. And think about these kids, like they don't have anyone who can spend. So that is what we started celebrating Diwali with the kids, as if giving the complete experience as if it's been celebrated in your own family. So in your own family, what you do? You buy clothes, you buy crackers. Your mom or grandmom will be making different murkus, adrasams, laddus and all those things. And you have special food with vada payasam on that day. Okay, fine, you can give it, right? What if you get everything and no one in your family there to celebrate? Will you enjoy it? No, right? So that is what we thought. We will send our volunteers, our friends to the home, and it will be provided, everything is provided. Along with that, you have some solid 10 to 15 guys going to each home, spending some awesome half a day so that the kids enjoy. Probably I can call some of the volunteers who had come along with me for such a celebration and get a feedback, maybe something later. Next. And see, so many people know, we feel that we want to do something and really want to do, but there are so many stigmas or so many problems which will not allow you to do. For example, one girl who's not married and she wants to adopt a kid. It's not possible. And so many other instances I can say where we have this kind of support, where one can say I'll say someone is needing, so I'll refer the person to that kid, where they will take care of all the expenses of the kid, education, stay, if at all if the kid is interested in some extracurricular, all those things. And often we ask the donor or foster parent to speak with the kid and spend some time, check the progress and all those things. And this has really worked very well, because it gives a boost to the kid that someone is there to take care, and the confidence level of the kid is going high, and which in turn we can see the results in the academics or the other curriculum. And that's it. And these are the, see, if at all, if I want to talk, there are so many things which I have not mentioned here. Probably I can make it cut short, where we help them building proper building, if at all they don't have a proper building, and we provide proper water purifying systems so that they have a healthy water, and other things like other equipments, wardrobes and things. And this is where it happens on every summer, where we have a creative workshop where we want to bring up the skills of the kids, where we conduct some science experiments, where you can see that was a hot air balloon which the kids made, and you have to see the joy when it flies, because they made it and it flies. It's an experiment. Okay, they would have seen only in movies, now not in nowadays movie, maybe in old movies, and other things like crafts and paintings and drawings. And we have one environmental project where we first thing is we don't believe in just planting. Okay, well, the hero is here. Okay, so we don't believe, when we started we said no, we are not going to do it. When one of our members said that why can't we plant trees, I said no, because just planting is not, if you just plant and after 2 days you come and see, you'll not have plants, correct? Saplings will not be there. So we said that if you are able to maintain, ensure that that becomes a tree, then you go plant. So that is how we started. Initially we started, and that is what we maintaining. We are not concentrating on more and more plantation, but it is maintaining of those plants, so that it can become, we do have a progress or report or something where we monitoring system which will ensure that it grows as a big tree. Right. Now all these stories which I have told, and now let us see what as an individual you can do. So first thing is I'll not emphasize on first point, which says donate to the needy, because donate anyone is willing, but one thing I would suggest when it comes to the first point, donate to the needy, please ensure that you are giving to the right person or a right organization. And one thing I would like to emphasize on a higher level, it is whenever you get a call, I'm also, in fact, I'm running behind these guys and making some arrangements so that it doesn't spread. That is whenever you get a call stating that someone is say call you and say that they need to operate a kid for an open heart, say whatever it may be, and they need funds, and they say that I'm running a home and we need funds. Please don't trust. It's 100%, if not 100%, maybe like 90%, it's fake. Okay, and in fact I'm generating a report so that I'm taking steps so that reduces or stops completely. And what you can next do is like simply, you don't have anything, just go. If at all, if there is an occasion, go spend time, at least 1 or 2 hours, provide them dinner, spend time with them, and see how kids feel happy. And you can, whenever if you feel that like weekends I'm free or evenings I'm free, you can go take tuitions to the kids so that they can get good, like they can get good marks in the academics. And you can also support for an education. And you can again, through Navigator, you can mold a kid to become a successful adult. So, if you say change, so many things, first we have to be the change and see yourself, only then we accept that there is a change. So I'm calling you people to be the part of the change. Any questions?
Now, do you mostly work with individuals or also corporates to get funding?
See, actually corporates, we do work, but what happens is like whenever we work with the corporates, they'll have a budget, say some 50,000 is the budget, where 10,000 or 20,000 we have to spend for conducting an event or something like that. So we are very clear on that, like we have to we spend less on administrative costs. That is it. If the corporate is willing and say that this cost will take care, and this is because so many NGOs, they call it as corporate NGOs, where if you see their balance sheet or account statement, whatever they would have got, I'll tell you one example. I've seen one NGO, a corporate NGO, where they've got 5,700 lakhs, 5,750 lakhs as donation. It's not a small amount. For that, 1 year. 1 year. And for that, they've spent 1,150 lakhs to generate the funds.
30%.
So you can see that there is an imbalance. No point, right? And if you see what is the amount they have spent, they'll be spending the amount for the salary. It will be around 1 lakh for the director per month. Whose money is your money? Correct? So, and if you see, it's only 20 to 25% they spend on actual project. That's a fact. They say, see, imagine yourself, one NGO calls, says that you give 600 rupees per kid so that we can educate. Do you think that by 600 support, do you think by 600 you'll be able to take care of a kid? No, it's not possible. Because when I say my child, when we work out, it is coming 2,000 rupees per kid, not less than that. So when that is there, how can it can be possible by 600 rupees? And think, imagine from how many members they collect this 600. You say one kid 600, so how many people will be giving the 600, and how much huge money they'll get, and only 25% going for the child, the actual project.
Are there any positive examples then of corporates doing something the right way? Mostly all over.
No, they are very, they are corporates who really want to do the things. Like you have a few corporates where what they do is like they don't give any monetary benefit, but they used to go to each home and conduct some personality training sessions or educational volunteering. And they do have a few corporates who want to give funds, but they ensure that they have one person appointed in their organization who will monitor that it's going fine on. There are a lot many NGOs, they form, corporates, they form a separate foundations as part of their organization. That is also there.
Do you have a view like in Chennai? How many homes are there who are like in?
See, if you say how many homes are there, they should.
This is one of the few birds that does that. Next, please. So this is the eggs. It's a very copper sulfate sort of a blue. Very nice to look at. It's probably not looking very good here. I have to be thankful to our friends with the camera for giving us images like this, or we'd never be able to look at it later. But to me, it's just the naked eye. When you look at it, you don't just look at the egg, but you look at everything around you. So next, please. The green bee eaters, again, we saw a photograph of this, a lovely photograph on the previous presentation. They are also birds that like to be in groups. Predominantly, they feed on bees and wasps, and very strong flyers. So, like he said, they like to go towards the light and come back. They keep flying. They sit on the perch. They keep flying. Sometimes they catch the insect, come back to the perch. Once they have the bee or a wasp, they hit it against a stone or wherever they're sitting vigorously, so that the stinger comes off. And once the stinger is off, it's not so poisonous anymore, and they eat it. They're known to engage in group activities, comforting activities. They dust bathe together, they bathe in the sun together, they bathe in water together, all in groups. Can I go to the next slide? So this is an example of them dust bathing. They roost or make holes in banks, mud banks, and nest there. Okay. The sunbird, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the sunbirds around us. Very beautiful birds, small little chirpy birds, fast flyers. The one on the left is the male. The one on the top right is the female. Any guesses what this is? The one on the bottom right. Okay, I'll tell you. This is also a male, but with its eclipse plumage. So this is a very, very interesting thing about birds is that when they are breeding, they can completely transform their color. So that's a male who's breeding or in the breeding season. The color is just so bright and blue and metallic. And this is the eclipse plumage. The eclipse plumage is typically the plumage that the birds acquire right after the breeding plumage. It is when most of these birds lose some feathers, so when they lose the main flight feathers, they look something like this. This is the eclipse. It's a smallish face. Most birds don't look very good during the eclipse, which makes sense because their feathers are again redeveloping, and you don't want to look so bright when you can't fly very well. So a lot of these birds look very dull. Talking of the plumage that changes and sheds, even the chicken sheds its plumage once in a while. I think it's a very cyclical thing. Unfortunately, humans are very cruel that after the breeding season, the birds automatically shed their feathers and get ready with renewed feathers for the next breeding season. So that's where their growing or the interim phase. The humans have figured out that when you starve these chickens and don't give it food or water, they shed their feathers, and it fools the body into thinking of the feathers. So people have devised a technique to fool the chicken's body itself by just starving the poor bird. Next, please. So the left is the sunbird that we're looking at. On the right is the hummingbird. So a lot of people confuse it. If it's very difficult, the easiest way to spot them is the hummingbird does not sit and feed. It always flies. The sunbird mostly sits and feeds. The egrets, again, very abundantly found birds. They are commonly seen all over Chennai. You can look at them in even Palikarna. You can see boating trips, Muthukadu. Any water body, even the Adyar River has a lot of egrets. The little egrets are fairly easy to identify. black legs but yellow feet. The one on the left is non-breeding, the one on the right is breeding. So this is again very fascinating that when these birds are in the breeding season, they develop the plumage behind their heads, and if you look closely between the beak and the eye, there is a bluish color. So this happens when it is breeding season. Sometime back, there were caps and bags made with just the breeding plumage of these egrets, and they were killed en masse, and it almost went to an extent where they were starting to become threatening to the survival of the species, but it's not the case anymore. Now they are quite abundant everywhere. Next. Cattle egrets, again, easy to identify them. Sit next to the cattle and eat whatever insects or worms that are dislodged by the big cattle that move. Again, on the left is non-breeding, the right is breeding. You can see the entire color changes, gets an orange buff, the color of the beak changes, and the nape, the area between the beak and the eyes also changes. The egrets typically lay eggs in groups of 2 or 3 eggs. Typically only one survives, the strongest. And when I say strongest, typically the hatchling that hatches first. So the one that hatches first takes all the food and starves the others. So typically only one survives. Egrets are, they have this habit of walking out of their nests. And they fall prey to a lot of predators because of that habit. Once they grow a little older, they just walk out of their nests. Egrets, typically they nest with a lot of other migratory birds. You can see them nesting with the cranes, some pelican storks, even cormorants sometimes. The great egret, again the bigger bird. Some people find it difficult to differentiate between the great and the intermediate. There's a small line that's behind the eye by which people tell the difference between the two. Again, the one on the right is breeding. You can look that the color of the beak changes and the color of this space between the beak and the eye. I'm not even aware of this until a few years back when I went on a bird watching trip with some professionals, and they pointed this out to me, and since then my entire perspective of looking at these birds and birds who are breeding and non-breeding is just absolutely changed. Next slide. The cormorants, again, you can see them very often sitting on rocks and spreading their wings. It's generally to dry. There's a lot of scientific debating on whether it really is to dry the wings, or there have been some people who say that they lack the oil glands that other aquatic birds have. Some people say it's just for the heat that aids in digestion, but the common theory is that they do it just to dry their wings. And typically they sit alone. A few times you see them in groups. They fly in groups sometimes. On the left is the Indian cormorant. You can differentiate that by the hook beak, the small hook right at the end of the beak, and the little cormorant. It's called, I think, it's also called the Indian shag, the Indian cormorant. The cormorant in olden days was used for fishing. So what they would do is tie a cormorant to the boat and have a ring on its throat, and so it would catch the fish, but the ring would prohibit it from swallowing the fish, and then they would catch the bird and pull the fish out. That was in China. It's no longer used because now you have much more effective ways of catching fish, but there are some places in China that still do it for touristy reasons. So if you go, you can look at cormorants catching fish still. Next slide. The kingfishers are very interesting birds. I'm sure you all know it by the Kingfisher brand of beer that is available here, but the kingfishers are not aquatic as much as they are sound to be. A lot of breeds of kingfisher don't even go near the water. They go and eat insects and worms and things like that. Only few species of kingfisher are actually found in water bodies and fish. So the easier way of identifying a fishing kingfisher versus a non-fishing is by the beak. The ones with the longer beaks are the ones that fish. The ones with the shorter beaks are ones that predominantly on dry ground and eat worms. Sharp eyesight, strong flyers again. Keep sitting on a perch and keep looking for prey. They also burrow into the sand, makes long tunnels. There have been recordings of kingfisher tunnels as long as 25 feet. So at the end of the tunnel, they have a small hole where they nest. What's strange is that they fly very, very fast into banks, mud banks, where they want to build their nest. And a lot of kingfishers injure themselves by doing that. The one on the left is a white-breasted kingfisher. The one on the right is the common kingfisher. Next slide. This is the pied kingfisher. When we say pied in birding, it's just always black and white. So anything pied is black and white. They have a habit of hovering over water, looking for fish and then diving in, getting it out. You can see a lot of this. I see a lot of them in the Broken Bridge in Besanagar. You can see a lot of these trees. Next one. The pariah kites are the most abundant bird of prey in the world. They're very opportunistic. They're more scavengers than they are a bird of prey. They eat a lot of roadkill. You can see a lot of them in garbage mounds. If you go to the Palikarnai dump yard, you can see a lot of pariah kites circling. And because of that habit of scavenging from dump yards, a lot of them become poisoned. There have been cases where the pariah kites mercury levels have risen because of improper disposal of the tube lights and other items that carry mercury in them. So a lot of these birds also die of poisoning. One of the biggest reasons of aircraft crashing or bird hits are the pariah kites. They're part of the black kite family. You can differentiate them from the red kites by the size. The red kites are bigger, and also by how the tail wings look. So the tail here is not so triangular, but on the next slide you will see the red kite, which are much more triangular tail. Can we go to the next slide? So that's a red kite. The Brahmini, again the white and brown. Again, anything Brahmini is white and brown. So you have the Brahmini duck and other Brahmini, so it's all white and brown. So I guess next slide. The shrikes again, interesting birds, small birds, but birds of prey. You can see a lot of them in the Nanmangalam forest here. I've seen the shrikes there quite a bit. In fact, the southern grey, I think it was spotted there after a very long time. Very cruel birds. They prey on small rodents, small mammals, other small birds. People call it the shrike attitude. They sit on a perch and look down at prey at a certain angle, and once they fix their gaze on a prey, they go attack. They're known to have to kill even birds that are larger than them in size. They're called the butcher bird, and you'll know why. Can we go to the next slide? So they have this tendency of impaling their prey in thorny bushes, barbed wires and things like that. So they catch prey and impale them like this. You can sometimes see a lot of lizards, chameleons, smaller birds impaled in similar fashion, and then they eat them at a later time. They do it mainly for poisonous toads and other poisonous worms. It's left impaled for 2-3 days, and once the poison disintegrates, then they go ahead and eat these birds. But they're called the butcher bird for this reason. Smaller shrikes also practice this sort of behavior. When you look at these small birds, they chase after nothing. So they'd be sitting and they would practice hunting. They would just go fly in the air really fast, mimic catching something, coming back and impaling it. Although it would just be practicing. They also fight among the other shrikes for prey. So So because of the shortage of time, and of course I would have typically liked it to be in the open and we see the actual bird, but this is a good substitute for not seeing it. The birding equipment, I would suggest a good binocular, not more than 10x, because anything more than that you need a really steady pair of hands. And also when you look at birds that are moving, the higher the zoom, the more difficult it is to sort of focus. So 8x is the best. If you have a steady pair of hands, then yeah, go ahead with the 10. I would personally recommend the Bushnell Legend Ultra HD. I use that, and I think that's one of the best pair of binoculars that this kind of money can buy. It's about $250 US. You have very, very expensive pairs like Swarovski that cost upwards of $2,000. But the Bushnells are very good, Steiners are very good. Then you have the Japanese ranges, the Nikon, the Olympus, the usual. They're good as well. But on the field guides, I use the Grimet. The Grimet has the most accurate depiction and illustrations. Salimali gives you bird calls and and a little more details. The Chris is pretty good, but I think if you're starting off, you would want to start off with the Salimali. Thanks. I think that's all I wanted to talk to you about. If there are any questions on any of these birds,
Sagar, have you seen changes in bird population in the last 10 years?
Yes. So some of these birds, like the shrike, you don't even see them anymore. So I think 2 years or 3 years back, we went on this. It's called the bird race. It's organized here where we have different teams that go spot birds and come back, and the team which spots the maximum number of birds wins. So some of those species that we thought we wouldn't even see are now being seen. So I mean, to answer your question, it's two ways. One is we have seen a lot of birds that are no longer here anymore, but we're also seeing a revival.
Depending on the species.
Yeah, depending on the species.
Species are not found for identified.
You mean new species? Not yet identified, you're saying? Yeah, I wouldn't know. I mean, so in the...
Maybe you see them but not identified what's the bird.
So in India there are I think about 1,200 species of birds. So it's very difficult for you to identify everything. Like I've seen a lot of birds that I've not been able to identify, and that's when the field guides help. So in the field guides you have the maps of distributions. So based on where you are, they would have marked if these birds are going to be in that area. And also some research, or you can ask the professional.
You mentioned a couple of words are brave and native. What is brave?
Or the drongos.
Drongos, yeah.
Yeah, very brave. In fact, they are not scared of bigger birds. So they go attack even the pariah kites. Pariah kites are about 5-6 times or maybe 8 to 10 times the size of the drongo. The drongo. They threaten. These are predators that come to break the eggs, to eat the eggs and chicks. So they ward off predators.
They also mimic.
Yeah, the drongos mimic.
Are the monoculars good for bird spotting the birds monoculars?
I personally prefer the binoculars because the field is better. It's a wider. But I guess, I mean, I'm not. I prefer the binoculars, but I mean, if you find the binoculars better.
I just heard they are like small and handy.
They're handy. Oh, okay. Probably easier to carry in a pocket.
Have you done the cheese movie? Very interesting with the sparrows.
Yeah, okay. So about the house sparrows, unfortunately we're not seeing them here anymore. There was a lot of talk about the cell phone towers affecting the sparrow population. But now there's a study that is saying that it's false. That it's not because of the cell phone towers, but it's more because the food grains are not being spilt anymore. They're not in the sacks. They're all in plastics. So you don't have any wastage there, which the sparrows typically eat, and the mouth column is not done anymore. And of course, because of a lot of urbanization, you don't have too many insects around, small worms, insects that sparrows feed on also. Yeah, so I guess that's why the population is reduced here, and you have a population that's thriving in areas where there's a lot of abundant food grains.
Yeah, I have a sparrow. I have found a sparrow estimated.
Oh, you have? Oh. They can eat off your hand. Sparrows are quite friendly. Once they gain trust in you, they can come, they eat off your hand.
More questions?
You have mentioned bulbuls, like are they like animals?
Bulbuls, yeah, they're very abundant. The red-banded bulbuls and the whiskered bulbuls, both of them are very abundant. The ones with the small tufts on the head. Yeah, you should see a lot of bulbuls. You've never seen it, see? Oh yeah. Hey, come on, there are a lot of bulbuls in it. I go to IIT. But
Only in IT, always in the past.
yeah, the rose-ring parakeets now. Yeah. You have a lot of birds. You have owls, you have a lot of owls. And I've even seen the falcon, parakeet falcon once. Okay, thank you for having me, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Sagar. I request Sabha to give away the memento and the sapling to Mr. Sagar.
எங்க